Alright, today we will be creating a charcuterie board using walnut and epoxy resin. And the first thing we want to do is get the pieces all laid out how we want them. And then once that's done, we will go ahead and seal the walnut. And here I was worried for some reason about the coloring and the epoxy resin staining the top. So I put a shellac on that so it would be repel the epoxy, and then I sealed the sides with actual epoxy resin, and that way it keeps the air from escaping the wood and creating bubbles later on, which we'll have to deal with, which is no fun. And then after that, we want to get the mold all nice and covered in mold release so that things don't stick. And then once that's done, I've got this really cool mold I got online. It's got these, as you can see, these little attachments you can hook on there, and they hold the wood down so that when you pour the epoxy resin, it doesn't float upwards. So it's really nice. Really makes this part easy mode. You don't have to use a lot of clamps and weirdness like when doing bigger projects. And then here we are going to mix up the epoxy and put our black dye in there. And then what we'll do right here is we'll just completely pretend in just a moment that we mixed enough and we didn't have to mix more off camera. So yep, look at that. Perfect amount, just like we planned. And then after we let it sit for 4 or 5 days, got nice and hard, we could take it out of the mold. And you can see though, even with the mold release, it does take a little bit of effort to get it out. But it's nothing like the side table we did last video, right? That had to actually be chiseled out of there. Alright, so now we get it out. And the first thing we want to do is straighten up one of the edges. So we use the joiner. And then once we have that taken care of, we can reference off that side to square up the other side on the table saw. So that gives us the width that we want. And now that we have two nice square sides, we can take it over to the chop saw and get it to the length we want. And then we throw it up on the CNC, go ahead and get it flattened. And then we use the chisel in the complete way it was designed to, using it as a pry bar to get our charcuterie board off the CNC table. And then I put a little chamfer around the edge using the a little hand router there. And then everyone's favorite, sanding. Lots and lots and lots of sanding. So much sanding. I'm really not sure what's worse, watching someone sand or actually doing the sanding. Probably doing the sanding now that I think about it. At least you can hit the fast forward button when you're watching the video. Alright, after all the fun and exciting sanding is over, we're starting to see how it's going to look when it's finished. And the next thing to do is to put the finish on, which is coming up next. And this is always so interesting when you put this on here. It like really brings the piece to life. It goes from looking like sort of scratchy and frosted. You can actually like start to see through the epoxy resin. It's translucent. The wood really comes out. You can see the colors. All right, we can see what the finished project looks like. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. I'll be sure to answer them. Please like and subscribe. And thank you all very much for watching. Bye-bye.